Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we're talking about growing your business, but also escaping founder-led sales. I know a ton of entrepreneurs get stuck there. I have been guilty of that in my past, and we have an amazing guest with us that's going to help us get out of that and grow a company outside of ourselves. I'm very excited. Corey Quinn, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Brandon, I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So the good news is I can guarantee that 100% of businesses at some point are in the founder-led sales category.
That's right.
Only a select few get out of that.
That's
and
correct.
You help companies do that, which is exciting because I think that's really the only way to grow and scale efficiently. So you tell me, I mean, you have a very interesting background. Where do we start with escaping founder-led sales?
Well, let me tell you some context about me and where I really was able to develop my methodology, really addressing this founder-led sales challenge that so many, as you said, so many businesses face. I have about 18 years in the agency space, digital marketing. Of course, that's a service-based business. And so the lessons I'll talk about today really apply to any businesses, but specifically, service-based businesses that are founder-led. In any event, my last role, after being in sort of the agency space for over 10 years, I was primarily in sales. I was recruited to go work at this company called Scorpion as their chief marketing officer. And what I was charged with doing was we had to find a way to accelerate growth. At the time, we were doing about 20 million in revenue. And I had inherited a 6-person sales team that were mostly subsisting on inbounds. And the thing that was eye-opening for me was that this sales team would get a call. We were primarily working with attorneys at the time. And attorney would call us and they say, hey, I have a problem with my website or my leads. And as a result of that phone call, we would do a one-call close. Of course, there was a big metallic gong on the sales floor that would get struck. And there was a big party every single time. That would happen 3, 4, 5 times a week. What I saw was eye-opening for me was not only the one-call closes, which were cool, but the fact that the attorneys who are calling into this digital marketing agency never asked to talk to the founder, didn't care who the founder was. What they were genuinely interested in was, do you understand my problems at a deep level, and have you solved them for people who are like me that I can relate to? And that leads to this understanding of specialization. And what the work I do today is I help agencies that are stuck in that founder-led role, help them to effectively escape the generalist trap, which is where many agency founders, service-based business founders get stuck, as of course, that's what keeps them in the sales role. So I'd be happy to share with you what the generalist trap is and how it kind of is hard to get out of.
I so want to know that, but a question that popped in my head as you were describing that, I'm just curious. I don't know if you've analyzed this or not. On the website for Scorpion, where people do not ask for the founder, versus the website where maybe we're falling into the generalist trap or otherwise, where people just they want to know who the founder is. Yeah. Do you find that they talk about that person more significantly on those other websites? Or like, what's the difference between a website where people just don't care who the founder is and those who do? Or is it really just accurately knowing what people are looking for?
Have you ever been to Disneyland?
I have been to Disneyland, yes.
Did you have to know Walt Disney to have a great time at Disneyland?
No.
So the challenge is that most founders or most businesses start off as a solopreneur, right? That's effectively, they're going out and they're getting clients. They're over delivering on those clients. Those clients are extremely happy. And of course, they tell their friends and their colleagues, which begins to fill the business. And that's, of course, that's how, by saying yes to all those businesses, that's how they create a business. That's how they get employees. That's how they have revenue and hopefully profits one day. The experience that you had at Disney is the same as the Scorpion client, the attorney. What they ultimately cared about was, in the case of, I guess, Disney, is having entertainment. That's where the value is. Did you have a unique and special time? But in the case of attorneys, what they really care about is they just want to be able to fill their practice with good cases, right? Get the good leads and so on and so forth. And so with the right kind of positioning, i.e., Scorpion was positioned as a specialist in the legal marketing space. We had a lot of experience, a big reputation for success. Everybody knew who we were. So as a result of that, we were positioned as that authority, that expert, that attorneys wanted to get access to our abilities and our skills to be able to help them solve their specific problem. I find that what people really care about in a vertical market, or just in general, people want to work with experts to solve their problems, who understand the specific problem, solve it specifically, not generically. And so when you're able to do that, there's a less reliance on the founder to be able to really have to be involved, a central part of the marketing or even the sales process.
I love it. I appreciate you entertaining my squirrel moment there. So let's get back to, I know you kind of got there at the end, but let's talk about the generalist trap and what it looks like currently on our websites, probably for most listeners.
Yes. So when you get into business, as I said, you start to say yes to everyone. And as a result of that, you build a business that is dealing with a lot of different clients, which of course leads to tremendous amount of context switching. And that context switching, your team maybe today is working on an SEO project for a dentist. Tomorrow they're working on a social media campaign for a manufacturing company. And maybe the day after that, they're doing a landing page for an attorney. And so as a result of that, all this context switching, you really end up at scale lacking a lot of operational efficiencies. It becomes very inefficient to grow the business, which of course puts more pressure on the founder because they're typically the quarterback in the company. They know all the moving parts. And when you do that, you produce a less than amazing product. You get client churn. Of course, when you get client churn, you end up chasing revenue. And when you're chasing revenue, you have to just say yes to everybody, right? So it's this circle that goes around and around and again. You say yes to everybody and you can't get out of that. And that's really where a lot of founders, once they've established their business, they're at the $1 million mark, $2 million mark. Sure, they built a business, but they're unable to really scale it and get to the next level.
Okay, so now that you've described probably everybody listening to some degree, and again, I'm just as guilty. I've been there in my past, and I know the feeling of both being there and getting past it, which is liberating and incredible.
Yes, I want to hear how you got past it.
That's a different episode for a different day. I'll tell you, in a sense, what I did in a nutshell was I suck at marketing. Like if there's anything that I'm just going to say I am god awful at, it is marketing. Really the execution of marketing, not the marketing itself. I like being creative, but ads, not my thing. Anyway, I'm an ops nerd. So I said, all right, what's the only way for me to get out of doing all of these things? Is to train somebody else to do it. So I put the systems in place to empower others to run the operation with getting things through the company, but then also the acquisition and conversion of clients or leads into clients. That was one of the things that it just takes so much time, or took me so much time. I knew I had to get out of it. So I put those processes in place. But I'm curious to hear from you. Let's say someone is in that generalist trap right now, which is definitely different than where I was, because I was more of a specialist. But if someone finds themselves there, what do we do to get past it?
So the path that I recommend is that you want to become a vertical market specialist. It's a methodology that I call more globally deep specialization. And I'll talk about that in a second. But the general steps are: you identify a vertical market that you want to specialize in, i.e. dentists, manufacturing, SaaS businesses, wealth management companies, whatever that is for you. And there's a process to get there. As a result of specializing, i.e. focusing on your business on one vertical market, serving one client, solving one problem for them over and over and over, you begin to build some expertise. It's like the old Bruce Lee quote, which says, "I fear not the man who has practiced 1,000 kicks one time. I fear the man that's practiced one kick 1,000 times." As a result of that expertise that you build over time, you have clear differentiation in the market. People begin to hear about you. You begin to build authority and trust and respect in the market, which allows you to raise your prices, have premium pricing. And as a result of having premium pricing, you attract better clients and you have better margins, which of course leads to a better business. You could pay your people more, you could pay yourself more, so on and so forth. So that is really the pathway out of this generalist trap.
I love this. And conceptually, logically, it makes complete sense. Nobody would argue that. The question, or I guess not the argument, but the pushback would be,
I'm okay. Let's argue. Let's go.
No, I've seen so many people say, yeah, that makes sense. I just can't do it because I need the revenue. Sure. So what is the initial break to say, okay, now I am getting more revenue. I'm attracting more good quality revenue. Yeah. I can actually put this into place.
In practice, what I see, and I talk to a lot of agencies who are in this process, a lot of service-based businesses. And the typical approach to this is, well, we're just going to dip our toe in a number of markets, put up a landing page, run some paid ads, and we're going to see what happens. And the reality is if you could imagine an iceberg, of course, only 10% of the iceberg is above the waterline. And that's, of course, what everyone else sees. And that's where you see the sales and marketing tactics. But the real value, the real power in vertical specialization, it happens beneath the waterline. And what's beneath the waterline are two things. Number one, focusing in on one vertical market. And then number two, the positioning and messaging. Once you have focused on a vertical market, and then you understand the psychology behind how and why they buy, what are the attributes they care about, what are the motivators, what are the pain points that they need solved. Once you've mapped all that out, your sales and marketing above the waterline becomes much more powerful. So the question is, how do you choose the right vertical market so that you're not wasting your time, right? And that's part of the process that I teach, part of deep specialization. And there's really three parts to that. And I'll go really high level for now. The first part is any business that's doing $1 million, $2 million in revenue, you've probably worked with a lot of different types of businesses. Some that were really a good fit, some were probably not as good of a fit, right? And so what we want to do is we want to go in and harvest the wisdom that exists within your business, i.e., you want to look at the numbers, which if you were to group all of your clients based on vertical market or industry, what are the trends in terms of revenue, retention? Where do you get your referrals from? Where is the profitability? Right? You also want to do more of a qualitative analysis, right? You want to talk to people on your team, maybe a client service manager who worked with all your clients. Who do they like working with more? Who do you, as a founder, really like working with, right? So you go through a deep dive analysis in your business to really extract any insights to help you ultimately make a decision. That's part one. Part two is, and this is something that a lot of people miss, is you actually have to give a damn. You actually have to care about the vertical market that you are serving. I'll give you an example. Just this morning, I was talking to a woman. Her name was Nicole. She runs an accounting firm, and she was struggling with founder-led sales. And she said, well, I went down the road of targeting agencies, actually. And I went to their conferences, wrote content for them. And I found that I just didn't really click with that audience. It wasn't my people, right? And so as a result of that, despite the fact that there's a big market and she can make money, she decided to pull back on that. She's shifting again because she realized that she didn't have the level of empathy for those folks. She didn't have the give a damn that's needed to really see long-term success. So you have to give a damn as step two. And then the third step is, and this is the one that really locks in the confidence for the founder to really take this approach, is you have to do the market research and uncover the total addressable market. What I mean by that is, and I have it up on my board here, it's if you, as an example, there are, I believe, 115,000 plumbing businesses in the United States that service local homes. And if you were to say, as a founder, you were considering targeting plumbing businesses, and you said, I'm going to target plumbing businesses, and I will commit to getting 1% of the market. And every year I make about $10,000 in revenue from each of my clients. Well, if you do all the math, at the end of the day, you have about an $11 million agency serving 1% of the plumbing market that you get $10,000 a month in. The reality is you've built an amazing business because you are serving, you've built one product for one buyer. You get really good at it because you're doing it over and over again. You've got excellent positioning, and you're able to have a very profitable, fun business to run. So once you do the numbers and you could see that pathway from where you are today with a little bit of success, you get some wins in this vertical market. Well, if that number is significant for you as a founder, that's typically, again, where you get that buy-in. It's like, yes, I would love to have a $10 million business doing one thing for one client and that has 60% margins all day, every day. Where do I sign up?
Yeah, right. Who would say no to that?
Yeah.
I love it. I like those 3 qualifiers too, because I think you're right. A lot of people definitely skip the second one. I've seen that, so we'll just let that sit there. But I'm also curious, what is this? Again, it all makes logical sense. What does it look like from your perspective? I don't know if you said this before we started recording or if you said it on the show too, but you took Scorpion from 20 million to about 150 million.
Correct.
In 6 years. Big jump. What did that look like in reality when you put this into place? What was that high level perspective of it?
Yeah, from a high level, just go back to the numbers. So it went from 20 million to 150 million. We went from 100 employees to 1,000 employees, and from 1,000 clients to 14,000 clients. We sold a tremendous amount of new clients. We hired a bunch of people. It was a tremendous amount of growth. The thing that allowed us to scale with great retention, by the way, is the fact that we were specialized. So we started with attorneys. When I arrived there, about 95% of the business were attorneys. Solving one problem for one client over and over and over allowed us to, and you'll love this because you're a process guy, not only have written SOPs, but we actually built custom software that allowed us to be able to close 600 deals a quarter and not have any issues with quality, right? So nice. A lot of volume. And so we started with attorneys, and then we went to a second market, which was home service businesses, plumbing, HVAC. And the way we did this was a little bit maybe counterintuitive, which was instead of having our attorney account managers and salespeople also sell to home services, we effectively started up a different division of people who are also dedicated to home services exclusively. In other words, when a plumber got on a phone call with one of our salespeople, it was someone who was a salesperson who was a specialist in the plumbing business, right? So we had the same kind of positioning. We built it over time for home services as we did with legal. And then the third market that we established was franchise or multi-location businesses, which created a lot of scale for us because yes, we had a lot of software, but instead of selling a single location business, we sold one sale led to hundreds of locations, which led to a lot of scale for us. The throughput for all of this was the specialization, was our ability to really go deep and be able to have a level of empathy for our clients throughout the entire engagement, starting in sales and marketing all the way through to client delivery.
I love it. And that was one of the key questions that I had before when you were talking about the iceberg analogy, which makes complete sense. So it's not that you just stay with that one iceberg forever. You effectively set up multiple icebergs and you become a specialist and you use the word division, which I love.
Yeah.
How did you know when was the tipping point when you were the master of that vertical?
3%. Was it? When you are at 3% of a market penetration. So what that means is if there are 10,000 businesses in your ideal market for, let's say, attorneys, once you hit 300, that is an indication. Obviously, every business is different, but round numbers, rule of thumb, 3%. Once you have 300, then you probably have the momentum, the systems, the marketing, the positioning to allow you as a founder to lift your head and go, what's the next vertical? While your business continues down that path, what do we want? What's the next division that we want to launch that's going to be a natural fit for us as a business?
I love it. That's perfect. And I want to just emphasize that because you did say 300. Corey originally said 3%, not just 300. That was the calculation because I know 3%. People's ear holes every now and then get clogged. That's okay. We're busy. Corey, this is awesome. This is an absolute goldmine of an episode for people. I'm so happy you joined us. Where can people learn more? I know you wrote a book. We'll go ahead and put that on the screen, but where can they learn more about you?
Brandon, thank you. I would love to offer your listeners, you can actually go and download a free version of my audiobook right now. It's called Anyone, Not Everyone, the proven system to escape founder-led sales. So everything is in here. Everything we talked about is in here. The 5 steps I teach is in here. You can get a tremendous amount of value from that. You can go to anyonenoteveryone.com. That's anyonenoteveryone.com. And you can download the audiobook. There's a bunch of bonuses, which includes templates and worksheets and videos, all this great stuff. And if people want to get started down this path, the book is a great place to do that.
That is super cool. I appreciate that. It is on the screen. also in the show notes down below. Corey, thanks for being here.
Awesome, Brandon. Thank you so much for having me.
Wherever you're watching and listening, all the links, social media, websites, free downloads in the description. Make sure you go check those out. We'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Harmonious at Lunch podcast. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we want to invite you to join us in the Small Business Success Facebook group, our private group where guests and listeners come together to grow your business. We want impact-driven entrepreneurs who are ready to go to the next level in this group so we can all share ideas, collaborate, and grow our businesses together. Go to whatif.com/group, and we want to invite you to join today. See you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.